What's up, Brian Tong here, and hey, let's get right into it. This is your WWDC 25 preview based on everything we know and have heard up to this point. And I think the biggest question most people have going into it is, what is Apple going to do or announce around Apple Intelligence and their AI platform that has stumbled out of the gates? And based on reports, it's going to be very little this year, according to Bloomberg's Mark Gurman. Now, in his latest Power On newsletter, Gurman says that while Apple is doing a lot of work behind the scenes to catch up to its competition, Apple's hope is to take a gap year for Apple Intelligence and ramp up for WWDC 26, when it could bring a more compelling offering to the table as an AI innovator. Because Genmojis, Image Playground, and everything else that wasn't delivered from last year's WWDC has objectively not resonated with either the tech crowd or the general consumer. Now compare that to Google's I/O announcements with Gemini's Smarts and their video creation with VO3. Then you also have the partnership with Johnny Ive and Sam Altman's OpenAI. They are showing us that the gap between them and Apple is only growing, and it's not getting smaller. And I remember, right, you all remember this, there were about 4 to 5 years in a row where before each WWDC, I kept saying in my videos, I hope they show us a better Siri and an improved Siri, and they didn't. And then they showed the new Siri last year with its all-new glow and slightly better understanding, along with its new personal context last year, and that was the big thing. But that still hasn't seen the light of day, and they're now taking a gap year. So unless they acquire an AI platform to jumpstart them, taking a gap year helps them refocus for sure, but Apple isn't a year behind, they are years behind. Now, behind the scenes, Gurman says one of Apple's developer announcements will have them open up their foundation models to third-party developers. This will let app traders tap into the company's on-device learning technology that it currently uses to handle lightweight tasks such as text summarization. Okay. Now, Apple's large language models have about 3 billion parameters, which is a measurement of their complexity and learning capabilities. So compare that to OpenAI's current GPT-4, which is estimated at 1.8 trillion parameters. And then you have Google's Gemini Ultra, which is at 1.56 trillion. Of course, numbers alone do not tell the whole story, but it is a valid point of comparison and really shows how far ahead others are and why you're seeing more advanced and capable implementations that Apple just can't do right now publicly in confidence. Apple is also expected to announce a new AI-based power management mode in the new iOS. That's to increase iPhone battery life that will analyze your behavior and make adjustments to conserve energy. And they will also potentially announce a reboot of their Translate app, which works with AirPods and Siri, and will reportedly allow their flagship earbuds to live translate an in-person conversation into another language. Now, Pixel Buds do this right now with an Android phone and their own Translate app, but the execution could be different or it could be the same. Now, it's expected to be part of an update for the AirPod software that will roll out later this year and will be tied to the new iOS. There are other initiatives it's actively working on, like an LLM-based Siri that would be a brand new take on their voice assistant, arguably one that should have happened at least 5 years ago, and their hope is to have a voice mode that is more conversational and smarter like their competition. Now, there's a revamped Shortcuts app using their Apple Intelligence models, also their long-rumored AI doctor service, and a redesigned health app. That is still happening and is still in active development. And let's not forget about their rumored Apple Smart Home Hub. That's expected by the end of the year, but the more news we get about it, or let's say lack of news, tells me that we may not see it at least at WWDC 25. We have the breakdown of Siri and its connection to Apple Intelligence that has just really hurt them and their products, and we'll see what this reported gap year can do. But, you know, enough about me complaining and laying out what the challenges are and the issues are. Here's how I think Apple could potentially accelerate their dreams of being an actual player, or at least develop their Apple Intelligence faster. LLMs need data to train them, and they are highly data dependent to get smarter and learn. And the issue we know is that Apple has been so strong on privacy, which has helped them over the years, but it's now the thing that hurts them because they don't have the same access to data that other companies do. So my suggestion to them is, with this trust that they have built over all these years, what they should and can do with the Apple community is to be upfront and ask them to trust Apple by giving them more access to their data than ever before, specifically to train Apple Intelligence. We know Apple has never been in the business of selling users data to make money, and they still don't need to, and most likely won't, but they do need to get more user data into their LLMs to also help advance Apple Intelligence. Make it an optional opt-in program with the understanding of why, and I think that Apple has earned such a big mountain of trust with consumers that it's one way for them to potentially close some of the gap on their devices other than acquiring an upstart AI company to help boost them. And again, Apple's not in the business of selling our data, and it wouldn't make sense for them to all of a sudden do that. That's not them. But asking nicely for us to surrender it, if you do trust them, I just think it might be an option that helps them out. Now, here's the thing. What would you at home that are watching this do when you hear me talking about this? Would you be willing to let Apple have access to more of your personal data if you knew it would directly help them make strides in closing the gap for Apple Intelligence with the competition? Because we want a better type of assistant that is connected, that can do a lot of the things that Gemini showed us it can do. Or are you completely against it and it's the reason you've stuck with Apple and you're okay with where we're at? Hey, put in the comments so we can all respond like civil people instead of those savages on X. But hey, it's just an idea I have. But even something as crazy as partnering with Google to implement the Google Gemini platform directly into their OS, that is not likely going to happen. In fact, I'm saying it's not, especially Google and Apple already have an $18 billion a year agreement for Google to be the default search engine on Apple devices in Safari. So teaming up with Google's Gemini probably isn't a good idea right now, and it would also look desperate too, but hey, here's to the gap year. Now, WWDC, it's always about upcoming software innovations, and it's all about developers, and yes, they need time to build tools to catch up, but based on Gurman's reporting, we shouldn't be expecting any major innovation announcements. A lot of the stuff is what they're working on, and look, if they don't address what happened with Apple Intelligence, they don't acknowledge that they dropped the ball and that they're gonna do better, then this is an easy one. For me, that's a bad Apple. Like, this is the place to do it. So what will they focus on, right, at WWDC? Guess what? It's a major revamp and really more of a facelift of all their operating systems like iOS. Now, we've already heard the reports and rumors that iOS and others will be taking on a new look and feel similar to what we've seen in VisionOS, and that's a good thing. It's codenamed behind the scenes Solarium, which is like a room where light shines through, and iOS is expected to have more of a glass-like appearance with menus and floating navigation bars that are more transparent that you can see through. Now, content will be softer in the background, right? It'll show them like through a frosted glass with highlights on the edges, just like how glass reflects light and drop shadows with some of those aspects. I just think that the glassy and translucent look of VisionOS coming to iOS. Think about that. This will be the biggest revamp to iOS in years since it's really stuck with its flat design in iOS 7 back in 2013, but this is going to be a new, fresh look. In other big news, Gurman also first reported that iOS, iPadOS, macOS, tvOS, watchOS, and VisionOS, all the OSs will change their number and be identified by year. So that means no iOS 19. We're getting iOS 26 instead, a big jump. So that would mean iPadOS 26, watchOS 26, and so on. This brings consistency across the entire lineup, which is easier for everyone, and it's jumping to iOS 26 because the updates typically start towards the last few months of the calendar year, and then 26 is looking forward. This also aligns with the more unified VisionOS-like inspired design that will be touching not only iOS, but all the OSs, and I think that could, that new look could freshen things up specifically for larger screen devices like tvOS on a big screen, even iPadOS, but man, tvOS could look really good. So I'm leaning towards iOS, which we use on the daily, and tvOS, who might be the big winners with this new redesign. Apple Watch, it's a small watch face, so I don't know how much of an impact that'll have, but I'm looking forward to this facelift, right? The good kind. Now, there's no expectation to change the name of the iPhone to catch up to 26, and I think that's okay. Also, why would we just randomly jump up from 17 to 26 for the iPhone? The model number sequence matters really more than operating systems. It would probably be better for search engine optimization for the iPhone 26 to align with iOS 26, but at the same time, most consumers catch on quick to what the latest iPhone model is, and that's what they end up searching for anyways. Now, as for macOS 26, historically, with a major design change comes a more iconic California location name. Mark Gurman says that macOS 26 will be named macOS Tahoe after Lake Tahoe in Northern California, where I'm from. Now, Lake Tahoe also has a large body of water that reflects the landscape around it. So yeah, that aligns with the reflective, glassy looking, translucent visual revamp for macOS as well. Like, honestly, how many times is Apple gonna say glassy or glass-like or translucent during the WWDC keynote? Like, that should be a drinking game on its own. Now, we talked about it in the last video, but recent reports also claim Apple will be releasing a new game app that is meant to replace Game Center. Now, this will be a new centralized gaming app to again show consumers and developers that Apple is taking gaming seriously. It will be pre-installed across their different operating systems to launch games, help you find games, have leaderboards, and communicate with other players. The report says that macOS 26 version might let them tap into games sold outside of the App Store, and they honestly, you know, when you think about gaming, they have made moves, especially over the past 3 or 4 years that I can remember, creating new developer tools to allow AAA console and PC games to run on the Mac. Now, they still have a ways to go, but the fact that Assassin's Creed Shadows launched on consoles, PC, and Mac at the same time on launch day, that was a big step in the right direction, and they need more of those, and they need to continue to push and support more developers to do the same. Now, GTA 6 keeps getting delayed, but having that be available on the Mac and Apple's new game app on launch alongside PC and console, that would be another accomplishment. That would be a moment for them. But it really takes those type of titles, or let's say top games like where's Marvel Rivals, where's Valorant, they need to get in the mix. Now, Fortnite, yes, is finally back on iOS devices, but every title that matters on consoles and PC, they just need to be on Mac on launch as well. But we finally saw some of that happen with Shadows, and there's a lot of steps that it took just to get there. So yeah, gaming on the Mac, we will see how it shakes out. All right, that's pretty much everything that we know about going into WWDC a week before the event. It's typically hard to get really big leaks from software, so I think we should get some nice surprises, little ones here and there, which is nice. But as of now, no new hardware is expected, but there is maybe, if there is a sleeper surprise or hardware that was supposed to appear, I would say it would have to be the smart home hub. Doesn't mean we're gonna see it. We also know there have been rumblings of a new feature for VisionOS that will allow you to just use your eyes to scroll through pages of content as an option. So maybe we'll get a first look at eye scrolling on Vision Pro, but we'll need more than that. And I think that VisionOS just has an opportunity here to be one of the bright spots of WWDC 25. We know that they're taking the look and inspiration from it, but they could also show us how Apple's headset OS has advanced and what those implications could mean for the rumored Apple smart glasses that are reportedly due in 2026. Oh, and then we got one more nugget. It might be over a decade too late, but Meta just released an official iPad app for WhatsApp, and they are now full steam ahead, according to Bloomberg, in their development and testing of a native Instagram iPad app for iPadOS. So yeah, thanks for that, Meta. After years of ruining Instagram and copying whatever becomes popular from other apps, preventing us from seeing posts from the actual people we follow, making it a Reels fest, and bombarding us with accounts that I never asked for, you're finally working on a dedicated app. Whee! All right, WWDC 25's keynote kicks in on Monday, June the 9th at 10 a.m. I will be there on site to report back with all the new developments and announcements. And again, what we know right now, it's all about that glassy, glass-like, translucent VisionOS-like facelift. Hold on, what am I doing here? Yeah, glassy, glass-like, translucent. I'm telling you, make it a game. All the OSs are expected to move to the number 26. Apple will also launch a new centralized game app, and we aren't expecting Apple Intelligence to be a major focus this year, which is a big letdown if the reports are true. All right, but that's gonna do it for this video. Hey, if you like what you see, give me that thumbs up, subs up, and hit that notification bell, ding, to get all my latest videos when they drop. And if you want more of that Apple goodness, you can check out my weekly Apple Bits XL audio podcast with the latest stories and special guests. We will be having a show on site from WWDC as well. Plus, you can support all my content with an ad-free version of the podcast, early access to my content, and exclusive content at patreon.com/Brian Tong. Thanks so much for watching, everybody. Take care and be safe, and I'll see you all at WWDC. Peace and love.